Hello, you're listening to Rebloom, a gentle space for women's health where science meets compassion and stigma has no home. I'm Tegan, and each week we slow down, peel back the noise, and make room for clarity about our bodies, our hormones, and most importantly, our lived experiences. This is a place to unlearn stigma, understand your body, feel supported as you navigate your own version of health. No shame, no overwhelm, just honest conversations, practical knowledge, and the space to grow. I'm so glad you're here, and let's rebloom together. So, I think today, this is a really good topic to do because it's actually Men's Mental Health Awareness Month.
Sound?
And I think it's something that people really struggle to talk about, particularly men. And it's such a big challenge for people to actually try and say they need help, especially with the culture for men. So I think this is why I really wanted to do this topic with you.
Cool.
But yeah, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Hello to people listening. My name's Andy Morris. I work at De Montfort University, and I know Tegan. Have known Tegan now for a couple of years at least. As someone who works on my professional mentoring scheme, Inside Edge Mentoring at DMU, which is what my core role is. Been a pleasure to work alongside you, and fantastic to see you in this role doing what you're doing now. So good on you. Keep it up. In addition to my role at DMU, which largely involves working the careers department, running a professional scheme, introducing our students to industry professionals, having conversations on a variety of things, I like to do individual work with students outside of that and set up individual projects. I do a lot of stuff around mentor coaching individuals and trying to bring out the best in them and around their self-awareness. I like to stretch people, I like to challenge people, because I don't really think anyone did that for me when I was broadly your age or the generations that you would normally find at university. Not in an overt way that I could understand or found helpful. So I like stretching people and challenging people. I see myself as a family man. I'm very passionate about my own family and like to spend quality time with them, particularly investing in my daughter and her growth and her happiness and helping her to navigate this crazy world that we live in. And I also have general anxiety disorder. And I think that's a great way of kind of opening up this conversation, recognising that this is very much part of me, as much my family and my work is part of me. I have this thing that I've been aware of for the past 32 years in my life that I've carried with me. So I'm sure we're going to get into that in a moment, but I almost wear it now as a bit of a badge of honour, and I have no problem in talking about it. I think we should talk about such things. So yeah, I'm an open book. So let's get reading. Let's dive into this.
Awesome. To you, what is anxiety? How do you feel it?
For me, it's a constant companion, and it's a feeling that courses through me, that originates in my head and seems to flow like the blood around my veins, and not in a pleasant way, like mild electricity that is unwelcome and means that I rarely, if ever, feel a sense of peace in my day. So people can relate to the notion of peace and to be at peace and serenity and tranquility and zen and all these other things that we hear about. I know not of such things. I'm a different beast. I'm a different animal, and what it feels like is often chaos in my head and an intensity and a strength of feeling that can be almost paralysing mentally and affect me in extreme ways at times, and feels like a constant battle to manage that. All the good stuff, basically.
Yeah. I think that's a really good way of describing it for people, because a lot of people just think, oh, you're just nervous. They don't see anxiety as like a disorder that can take over your life and take over your mentality and affect everything that you do and every decision you make. So I think that was a really nice way to frame it. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get into more of your story. So you said an anxiety disorder, for 32 years, did
Correct.
you say?
Yeah, since I was 18.
Yeah. So when did you know that you had anxiety? And what was the point where you was like, okay, this is not just me being a bit nervous now?
I think there have been various points in my life leading up until 18 where I found myself in situations where I was uncomfortable. I didn't enjoy school. And I now understand that I have perhaps undiscovered areas of my own neurodiversity where the traditional schooling model of shut up, sit down, face front, revise these notes, write them off the blackboard, listen to the teacher, put them in your textbooks, make sense of them, then revise, and then do an exam to test whether or not you understand it. For me, that is not learning and not education. But back then I assumed that I was just stupid, and I didn't get it because other people did, and maybe I just wasn't a bright person, not realising that I need to be taught in a particular way to understand things. I need to be assessed in a particular way in order to give me a fair shot at good grades or whatever. And my schooling, I went to a good school for the town that I was brought up in anyway. And it certainly pushed my education, but it felt like pulling teeth every day, and I was very unhappy in that environment for a variety of reasons. But being forced to work and learn in a particular way that I didn't realise at the time but can now look back on didn't work for me, just didn't work for me. And I believe that was the starting point of stress. And then when I went to study A-levels, purely because my mates studied A-levels, I followed them and I studied A-levels, and realising that the game had moved on and the level of intellectual ability required to attain at that level had been upped, and I was struggling at the previous level, so I was well out of my depth and was enjoying college when we were allowed to enjoy college and all the fun stuff that came with it, but in the classes I was in complete denial, and that pressure kept on building and building. And then in 1994, whilst away on a youth residential around kind of sports and sports development, because I was starting out in youth work in those very, very early days, not knowing that's the career I would go on to do. I broke. I just snapped. There was someone that I was dating or thought I was dating at the time, and she was being mean to me. She was on the residential, and my studies, I was trying to revise for my mocks, my A-levels. And then there was all the pressure of the course that I was on, and I remember walking out of the cafe restaurant area where we were, and I walked down this slope and onto the football field next to some football goals, and I just fell on the floor and I collapsed and I broke down in tears, and my mind just snapped. I remember feeling something breaking, like this release mentally, and in some respects that was just a freeing of emotions, but at the same time recognising there'd been some damage done. It wasn't long after that then I'll be open, I was put on diazepam by the doctor to try and calm me down, but that has a good side in terms of you don't feel stressed, but a bad side, like you cannot be bothered to do anything. That's at least how I felt. It felt like I was wandering around all day in my best ever morning lay-in, sometimes lying in bed and you're that cozy in that, wandering around every day in my head like that, and that was not a good way to be. My studies suffered, socially I suffered, confidence suffered, and I was sent to do some counselling as well. And it was a pretty traumatic time. My mocks were put on hold. Some other stuff happened in 1994 that wasn't great, and my A-levels bombed badly. I was told I had general anxiety disorder, and then I've kind of had it ever since. I've not been able to escape that. It seems like I'm permanently scarred by that. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your story.
No worries.
It definitely sounds like it was really tough, and you know, having that moment of just like you said, you just kind of something snapped in your head, and you was just like sort of broke down your resolve, and that sort of wall that you had of like, no, I'm fine, I'm okay, and like trying to get through it.
Yeah, a genuine turning point, and some of that was the stress of school, and one of the things that I noted as well, kind of growing up in a home environment as well, where I had a very loving, caring family around me, but I lost my dad to cancer when I was not even 10. So suddenly the man of the house role, the guy in the house, if you will, was gone, and then it was just mum bringing up the two of us. And we didn't have much, we really didn't, because my mum then chose to stay at home and look after us, so she brought us up on a widow's pension. So I was not from an affluent family or background, and so there's all those kind of pressures and stresses as well, where there's certain things that you can't have, and life seems tough and life seems bleak, and then you haven't got your dad around, and then you're going through a schooling system that doesn't like you, and the school system didn't like me and I didn't like it. And then all that culmination when I was 18, I think as far as I can remember, I've always been in stressful environments, and that's before when I was 18. Then I started working in the kitchen for 7 years, hating it. Still can't fathom why I stayed there. Self-esteem, no agency, or whatever it might be. But again, a kitchen is one of the most stressful work environments.
Yeah.
Like you know the rumours, you see the programmes on telly, and those people that have experienced it, once you're in it, it's a powder keg, and it's very, very intense, and it's very high pressure, and it's high temperature. So going from stressful environment to stressful environment to stressful environment, it's very fertile conditions for anxiety to take root.
Yeah.
And I guess in summation, it's conditioned me to think and be a certain way, and I don't like that. But I've had to embrace that and find the good and the value in that.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah, 100%. I think I really liked when you just said then, like, you know, you embraced it, because a lot of people think, okay, what can I do to minimise my anxiety? What can I do to... And I think that it's really good to hear that, obviously I know it would have been such a hard journey for you to actually embrace it and sort of accept that, you know, you do have anxiety and that's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
Some days it's easier to accept than others, and sometimes, and I know some people won't like this phrase I'm about to use, sometimes I can use it as a superpower.
Yeah.
So it allows me to attain a level and work at a level and an intensity and a pace that would send most people running for cover. But it allows me to unlock my genius. But it's not sustainable. It's like a boost mode for a period of time, but boost only lasts so long, and then it kind of wipes you out. So I think we all maybe have access to those sorts of traits, whether they come from anxiety or whatever inside us. We have these moments where we can perform for a little bit longer and a little bit harder at that higher level. And I'm known for doing that, and I know myself for doing that. And I've often worked at that boost level for too long, to the detriment of my own health. Yeah. And even with 50 years under my belt now, there's still times when I get that wrong. I've made great strides in this past year, particularly to change that. But yeah, every day's a conscious fight to go, how much do I let the anxiety interfere? How much do I let it benefit me?
I found it really interesting when you were talking about the school system as well, because as someone who also had a lot of stress when I was doing my A-levels, I found that I could not concentrate. There's just so much pressure to just keep going, you know. So we have got your marks, you have got this coming up, and it's like your best interest is in their hearts, but at the same time they still want you to get them exams done. And I think that sometimes school systems can forget or blur that line of, you know, let's focus on the person and let's not worry about, you know, a letter on a page.
It's a tough one for anyone, whether you're a teacher, a tutor, or an academic, you're working at university, because on the one hand you're balancing the welfare of each individual, and each individual in your class, whether it's 10 or whether it's in some of our classes up to 300 odd students, trying to get to know each of those individuals and understand their particular needs, and then being able to work with them and their neurodiversities and their preferences. That's a challenge. But also the institution, whether it's a university, school or college, will be under pressure to perform and make sure that their students are churning out the highest grade. I don't know how you square that circle and being able to get that right without then the cost being on the academics and the tutors who are working every single hour and under huge pressure themselves. So the questions should be legitimately asked over those sorts of systems. I know we're not here to talk about that, but you know, the welfare of our students is important, but also is the welfare of the academics who work so hard, and perhaps a lot of that isn't necessarily seen by so many people. Those folk that will burn the midnight candles and to get marking done and understand students' needs, and then for those people that do stress and have anxiety just like me, being really empathic about it, and like, you know, it's not a 9-to-5 job working in education, you know, and being a student in this day and age certainly isn't easy with all the various different pressures before we get to social media and all those things on folks. So yeah, it's a perfect storm.
Yeah, definitely. So how does anxiety manifest for you, and how has that changed over time?
I don't think when I first had it I was that conscious of it, other than that it was just there and I was just really stressed. And it's only in later life that I can say I've started to try and figure some of this stuff out. So I can't really tell you how it's manifested and changed over time, other than I've become more aware of it and try to understand it as I've gotten older. And a lot of that, in all honesty, in my 40s, which in some respects now I look back is way too late in the day. But I guess if you go back 20, 30 years, conversations like this probably weren't happening that much at all. So it's good that we're having these conversations. It's good that you're doing this and providing information out there for the masses who want to hear it. So how does it manifest? I'll relate it to conversations that I've had with students when we talk about burnout. And burnout and anxiety, I think, it can be two different things, because there's burning out and then there's burnout when you actually achieve that. I think most people can be subjected to that, but anxiety I will relate to myself as having a condition. But I think there are indicators. I think about recognising, when those indicators at play, and what I've reflected on in the past 10 years easily is there are indicators that build up to what I call critical mass. And when I hit critical mass, when I go beyond that point, then I'm in trouble. It's about recognising how close I'm going to the cliff edge before I go over, when my anxiety can really take a hold. And in the past, I've noticed things. There's a number of indicators. So I might become quiet when I get anxious, and that. So I don't necessarily go big. I go small, and I go into myself. And sometimes it's difficult to break into me. And the more silent I go, it's like, oh, something's up with Andy. Then I start to get like a furrowing of my brow, kind of like an intensity in terms of my stare. I become quite serious. And if anyone's trying to reach out to me, then I become quite irritable. Don't talk to me. Don't talk to me. Don't talk to me. I'm too much in that, and I feel quite prickly. I feel my skin almost being alive, like needles. I feel a tension in my neck. Then I usually get like a washing machine stomach, like a sensation in my stomach. And then when it gets really bad, I forget words, like standard, normal, everyday words. Straight up fall out of my vocabulary, gone. And if you ask me about something and I want to say, like, we're in a recording studio here and there's a microphone, and I want to refer to the microphone, I'll say, the thing, it's there, it's got sponge on it, it's on a stick. And after about 20 seconds I go, microphone, that's the word. Now, in what logical world would I forget that word? But at that point it's like, no, you're forgetting words now. This is the stress. You can't think. There are literal blocks coming up in your mind in terms of how you're processing. Walk away. Walk away. So it's understanding that those things happen in a particular order. So what order they usually happen in, and they usually happen with a particular order with me. I'm not saying they will with everyone else, but when you really start to think about your own anxiety, it doesn't go from 0 to 100. It builds and it builds. So what are those little indicators earlier on? And when you spot them and you go, aha, stop, I see you. I'm not going to go down this road. I'm going to make a conscious decision to go this way, or to pause, or go and kick the leaves, or listen to some music, or whatever it might be. I'm not going to put myself in that space, that intentional thing. So, grinding teeth, irritability, my breathing changes. So if you imagine taking a full deep breath in your lungs and then blowing all that air out, so going from 100 then to 0% air in your lungs. With me, I go from 100 to 90 to 100 to a 90. I let most of the air stay. It's very shallow breathing, just letting bits in and out. So my blood isn't getting oxygenated in the same way as you would like if you really let it out, So at that point, there's like an intensity to me. So I recognise those things, and I guess some people listening to this might go, I recognise those indicators in myself, or at least encouraging people to go, okay, so if I get anxious, what are my indicators, and do they build and build and build? Can I spot the early ones earlier on? And then detour and go, I'm not going to walk this road. I recognise it, and I want to be in control of it rather than it being in control of me. If that makes sense. So those are some of the indicators, and that's how I try and manage some of those things.
Awesome. I think it's really good that you're able to notice it now. And I know we've had discussions about this before, actually, but when I was talking about stress, and you said to me, like, oh, do you know any signs when you're getting too worried or too stressed? And I said I kept sighing, and I think that's one for me. I know I don't have anxiety disorder, but I do find that, when you start to listen to your body, it does tell you. You've just got to be more aware of yourself, and I think that's such a hard thing for people to learn.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because we live with our bodies and our own. You're a medical science student, so you understand this stuff far greater than I do. But I can't just suddenly replace my body. I'm stuck with me. So, I'm the world's expert on myself, or at least I should be. If I spend time in my head, and if I spend time free from distraction, and the world is full of distraction, on screens and other people and activities, environments, you name it. But even when you quieten that stuff away, with anxiety, because from my mind it's running at 100 miles an hour. Most of the time, it will create its own distraction.
Yeah.
I'll be trying to think about something, and then some random thought will pop in my head, and then that'll be connected to something else, and then suddenly I'm so far away from what I was originally doing. Now, some people might say, well, is that an indicator of something else that's going on? Perhaps it is. Maybe there's some other stuff that I could do with having a conversation or doing some assessments on and figuring that out, because maybe anxiety is not the only thing that I'm managing in my life, but for the purposes of this conversation, obviously that's what we'll stay focused on. But yeah, it's learning how to kind of, I suppose, quieten some of that stuff down and become distraction free, in order to read ourselves, to be aware of what's going on and go, okay, I recognise those patterns, I recognise those indicators, writing it down. We've both got notebooks here and that, like, trying to figure some of that stuff out ourselves.
Yeah.
And there's some great help out there in that, but I think it's also learning to trust you and what you're thinking and what you're feeling and that, and trying to navigate that as best as we can.
100%,
Yeah.
How, you said earlier that when you notice that your anxiety is starting to build, you walk away. How do you do that when, you're such a busy person, you're doing like mentoring, you're planning for global trips, you're doing all this stuff, you've got a daughter, you've got so much on your plate.
Yeah.
How do you just see something, you're like, right, this is making me anxious, I need to walk away?
It's hard to walk away from your responsibilities, particularly for a person of principle.
Yeah.
Like, if I say I'm going to do something, I do it, and I don't like stepping back from stuff because it irks me. So my principles and my anxieties can sometimes clash. They can sometimes go against each other.
Yeah.
But there are times when I might recognise that the anxiety is building. And one of the things that I've done historically is I've been aware when I've been starting to speed up. So time, speed, and efficiency matter to me. And I think some of this stuff was conditioned by working in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Because you're working at such high speed with such sharp, hard, short-term deadlines just to get through the day. And then when you've done that and you take a break, you go, same again tomorrow. And that's how it is. And it's just time and time again, and in very high-pressured, high-temperatured environments that crazily unhealthy.
Yeah.
You've got to really love that to be in it, I believe. And I didn't. And I stayed in that way too long. Because of that speed and that intensity that I've become conditioned to work at, you can almost take it for granted. So I work fast when I do my job. I work fast when I'm around the home doing chores and tasks. I speak fast. I know I do. And I'm now trying to consciously slow it down because I'm aware of it. Once you're aware of it, you go, I have a choice. I can carry on down this road or I can take a different route. And since September 2019, no, not September, January 2020, right before COVID, I had a car crash in the autumn, not a bad one, but a small one. And after a long load of proceedings, I met with the doctor who had many, many initials after his name, very learned guy. And despite having like a group therapy and despite CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy, a variety of things, they hadn't scratched the surface. They hadn't helped me at all. And then when I met with this individual to kind of settle the claim of the insurance and all the stuff that happened after that, he was very blunt with me. He was very in my face. There's a longer story to this, but I don't want to go into the longer story because that wouldn't be effective at the time. And he just pointed at me and he said, you need to worry less and you need to be more spontaneous. I remember thinking, yeah, I'm like, who the hell are you to talk to me like that?
Yeah.
But interestingly, he did get under my skin, and I did start to make conscious change after that, and that was in the January. So shortly after then, I started to notice things. So at home, I would have this thing called my mad half hour. And what I mean by that is I'll just go and do the dishes. But actually, whilst I'm doing the dishes and washing needs doing, actually I put this machine on and that. And actually, while I do that, if the fridge is open while I'm putting stuff away, then I'll just clean out the fridge at the same time. So it's a very much a kitchen mentality. You're multitasking when you're working in the kitchen. Yeah. So rather than doing the one task that I said that I would do at a normal human pace that most people would do, I would do it at light speed whilst also 2 or 3 other tasks. So what you would see is this blur of efficiency where stuff just gets done and gets done fast and to a very high standard. But then what would happen is when I'd done all of those things, I'd sit down on the sofa and then this like hamster wheel inside me, this dynamo wheel is spinning violently. So I can't just go, oh, just chill and watch telly now or read a book or whatever. I can't do that because it's spinning, so I'm looking for the next thing to do.
Yeah.
So what I recognised was, after speaking to this guy and doing some reflection, I can't work myself up into this frenzy again. I have to recognise I'm about to have a mad half hour and then go, right, I'm just going to, and this sounds really silly now, but this genuinely happens. It still happens to this day. When I start working at a fast pace, I automatically recognise it and go, you're working too fast. So if you were just on a person observing me, you'd watch me working really quickly, and then it's someone hit the slow motion, and then you would see my motion slow right down.
Yeah.
Right. I must sound really silly now, but that's what you would see from a distance. You see a guy working really fastly, and it's almost like someone clicks slow, and then he'd slow down, and I would deliberately then, if it was delicious, start stacking the plates very, very slowly. And within a minute, all that energy is drained.
Yeah.
Because I've deliberately slowed down. And I work at a slower pace. Now, in my mind, I'm thinking, but you could get this done quicker. Yeah. And you could be more efficient than that. And then I go, I have to trade that now against that feeling of the wheel spinning fast when I sit down. Do I want the wheel to be spinning fast when I sit down, or do I want to relax? No, I want to relax. So I'll take 10 minutes longer to do it. But when I do sit down, I can sit down and I can chill. So it's recognising when something's going on that's not healthy for you, and for me, as an example in this case, me working at speed, I recognise the speed, I recognise the wheel spinning inside, I recognise that heightened sense of the anxiety is really kicking in, and I go, right, and slow down. Yeah. Like, it would look silly to visualise, but for me it really helps, because it's me going, no, I'm in control of it, it's not in control of me, I'm in control of it. And then I work slower, and I just feel that almost like that when you see a temperature rising scale, it going back down again, and a calmness, not a peace, I'll never feel peace, but a calmer sensation. I go, okay, I did that. And it's a wonderful thing when you've got general anxiety disorder to go, I can change that. Yeah, I can change that. As an analogy, it's like loud music playing on a stereo, and imagine you can never turn the stereo off. You can never switch it off. The music's always playing, but you can turn the volume down to permissible levels where you go, that volume isn't so intrusive, it's not going to interfere in my day. But at full chat, that volume will just be too much. It will stop you from doing anything because it's so ear-bleedingly loud. When you quiet it down, it's still there. You can still hear it, but actually it's not intrusive, and you can go about other stuff. And dare I say it, you can then start to work to a rhythm within that's not so intensive, that still works for you. And that's, like I say, when trying to use my anxiety as a superpower, it's learning to control it in different environments. I bring it down because it's important to me to rest after this task, or actually I bring it up because actually I need to go into maximum attack mode and get my deadlines hit. I need to get my work squared away. Yeah. Not easy.
No.
Not easy. Still learning.
Yeah. I think as an anxious person, I haven't been diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, and I'd never say that I have it. But as an anxious person, I found this year, because I've been really trying to notice my behaviour a lot, and I've found that I have a little bit of a hamster wheel. So if I cleaned my flat, I'd have so much energy and so much in my head that I would end up pacing my flat back and forth for 20-30 minutes, and then I was just like, I'm just pacing because it's too late in the night to get work done, or it's I'm too stressed to even know what task to start on. So I would just be pacing for ages, and it was like you said, I'm trying to get everything done quick, and then you just have all this energy, and you're just well, now what do I do with it? Yeah. So definitely, you don't sound silly to me when you're explaining that. It made perfect sense.
Well, perhaps try that then, like when you recognise that that wheel is spinning. If there's a sensation that comes with that, so if it's like a prickliness, whether it's an overheating, whether it's a tension in your head, if you go, okay, if I feel this feeling in the future, what does it look like to the outside? Yeah. If the outside looks like I'm working faster, I'm pacing up and down, go, okay, how do I just try and slow some of that down in an attempt to try and bring down that inner temperature, that inner speed, whatever it is that's going on? How can I kind of regulate that down? I'm not saying it will work for you, but that certainly worked for me. At times it doesn't work for me because I'm just too in the zone. Yeah. I've gone too quickly into the anxious zone, but it's a really nice feeling to know that sometimes you're not a prisoner to it. It's there. It's a constant companion, but it needn't be like a prison guard or someone that kind of lords over you. It can be a different sort of companion. Yeah. Yeah.
I like that. I think that's a good analogy. Definitely. Cool. I feel like we've already kind of talked about this with you saying, you know, when you're having your mad half an hour, you make sure you're consciously calming down. But do you have any other tools that you use, or any sort of like ways you try and calm your anxiety?
There's a lot to be said for breathing and recognising that breathing. Like I say, the whole kind of shallow breathing, where if I've got 100% of my lungs, I only let 10% out, in, out, and don't really let the rest out. So learning to breathe in those particular situations, learning to walk away, and whether we can go out for a walk or you can do something else to distract you, I think that can be a really helpful thing. Trying to think it through, which is a difficult one, because if the anxiety often manifests in your head can sometimes feel like chaos with all the stuff that's going on there. I have many phrases, and one of them sometimes is don't trust a feeling. Now, feelings can be good because they can give us an indication of what's going on within inside us, but sometimes those feelings can be exaggerated. Sometimes those feelings can be so intense that they interfere with rational thought. So in that moment when I'm really stressed out, like, it then kind of takes this emotional toll on me, and then I start to get scared, I start to get fearful, start to get apprehensive. You know, the anxiety spills out and manifests in other ways. And when those fears are left to run riot, then you're kind of at their mercy. So I have to ask myself, do I trust these feelings? Are they an accurate representation of what's going on, or should I be thinking this through rationally? So what's happening with me? Why am I thinking this way? How is this impacting me? Is it as bad as I think it will be? You know, and just trying almost like critical thinking and trying to talk myself down. So at university we're masters of critical thinking, aren't we? That's what we try and do with people. We help people to explore things, break them down, analyse them, and then come to an informed conclusion about whatever that topic, whatever subject you're studying. That's about breaking yourself down in that moment and trying to come to a better understanding of why it is that you're feeling that. Always good to have someone to talk alongside you, but you've got to make sure you've got the right person who isn't going to make you feeling inspired by saying things, you know, just breathe or get a grip or whatever. It's like, well, that's really helpful, thanks very much, rather than someone who can perhaps ask you questions and guide you to the exit rather than telling you where to go. There's a whole different thing, isn't it? Them being able to maybe understand you better, understand that you have this condition, and then giving you the questions that you know you need, or you don't know you need to answer, but they're going to help you get there rather than you spending time in your head spinning. So having that for me is important. So the slow motion's important, breathing things through, thinking things through, and a bit of something I'm really not very good at, Tegan, and that's spontaneity. Spontaneity. So with me, general anxiety disorder means control. Control, have control of myself, have control of my circumstances, because if I'm in control of it, I'm in check, and then there's nothing to go wrong, and then I can't worry about it. So the idea of spontaneity, just going, devil may care, hell for leather, abandon plans, let's just do this instead, or let's do some off the school. What do you mean, just do this? So I was in Copenhagen last week on the DMU Global trip, my colleague Dan, and Dan's a very different character to me, very, very different. So I'm kind of this intense individual, and he is very, cool, it's fine, just quite laid back, take things within his in his pace. We were going to the student meal, and last night the students had organised a meal for us to go to, did a whole thank you thing, which was wonderful, bless them. We had gifts and food, and it was lovely. So we go in there, and it was a 50-minute walk from the hostel. Oh, it was an Uber, but it's like, we're not going to take a taxi, we'll walk across Copenhagen. So we started walking, and I started realising, looking at the clock, thinking, we're going to be 5 minutes late. And I don't like being late. Speed, efficiency, timing, that matters to me. So we start walking, thinking, can we make up the time? But if I walk too fast and get whole hot and bothered and not get to the restaurant, be a bit flustered. And we're about 2/3 of the way into the journey, and Dan goes, oh, should we go in there for an Irish coffee? There's an Irish bar and they were selling Irish coffee, and I'm like, yep. And inside I'm thinking, we got time. But actually it was really healthy for me to be around someone that's just like, well, why not? And part of me is thinking, but the students will be waiting for us. They're not going to be sitting there in silence, because we created such a great group culture. They'd be roaring with laughter and having a good time, and they were. So we ended up being like 25 minutes late or something, because we spent 20 minutes in this bar, and I sat in the bar and I was like, be cool with this. Be be cool with this. It's quality time with a colleague and that, and we've got a drink, we've got a chance to unpack, and it's just me and him. We're in this amazing city. It's okay. The world isn't going to end. And it didn't. Yes, we're a bit late, and that a little bit might have irked me, but what actually surprised me was I benefited because I actually had a stop off and we had a drink and we had a chat, and it was lovely. We just had this really, really nice moment before we then went and then saw the students. Now, if I would have been by myself, there's no way I would have stopped off at somewhere, because it would have mattered to me there to catch up, maybe run a little bit and then get there on time. And they wouldn't have cared less. They wouldn't have bothered. It wouldn't have mattered to them. Oh, Andy's he's here at 7:31. Like, but it doesn't matter, because they're busy having a good time. So who am I doing this for? So this notion of spontaneity. Okay, it wasn't my idea to come up with the coffee and go in there into the bar, but it's just like, but I went with it. And perhaps a different version of me would have gone, no, sorry, Dan, you go, but I can't, on some kind of principle to myself, because it was important, it mattered. And at that point, it really, really didn't matter. And there was a few points when we're in Copenhagen where we walked past somewhere and go, should we go in there? And I'm like, yeah, why not? Why not? And at the beginning of the week, there's an exercise. You may have seen me do it briefly when we did the public speaking masterclass workshop, where I asked you to come outside of the room. I said, what do you want to leave outside of the room? Well, I've turned that into a proper activity now. So it's called the coat check, or the feelings check. And actually in Copenhagen, I got a hook and a coat hanger on the wall, and I've got these nice little pegs from Hobbycraft and all the notes. So rather than just the notes that we had, I created this whole little exercise where I said to people, what do you want to leave outside of the room? What do you not want to bring into the room that's going to be cumbersome and difficult? Like you would leave a coat check at the theatre for the people listening to this. You would leave your coat outside the auditorium, so you don't have to have it on your lap or sit with your coat on, so you can enjoy the show. What is it you want to leave outside of that precious space, so you don't let it impact that precious space in a negative way? So I created all these resources and made this nice framing on the wall and stuff, and then we had a whole moment about it, and I said to the students, I'm going to leave my controlling nature outside the room. That was my commitment for the week last week. I'm going to leave my controlling nature outside of the room. Recognising I have general anxiety disorder, I'm not going to bring it in, because it's not going to help me. So making a commitment to do that at various times along the week, just like with Dan outside the bar. Yep, let's go in there and do that. And then when I was in March, I turned 50 and went to Japan by myself and toured around and did various different things, and that was wonderful. So I did have a number of things on my itinerary, because it would be foolish to have missed amazing things just because I was just wandering here and there. But there was good chunks of certain days where I was going between destinations. I was like, well, I'll go here, I'll duck into this road, or I'll see someone. I just totally on the fly. And that was really quite liberating. I almost took like going travelling, I took a break from myself. So I think like spontaneity, there's something to be said for it. And actually when I've done that, nothing bad's happened. So perhaps I need to chase that a little bit more. Are you a spontaneous person? What spontaneity mean to you, Tegan?
No, I am the worst person for being spontaneous. I need to know everything. I need to know what I'm doing, when I'm doing it. I have like 3 different diaries. When you were talking then about like, you know, your trip to Tokyo and then your trip to Copenhagen, all I was thinking was, how is you so calm still? Because when I think of travelling, I'm already panicking thinking about it. So the fact that, you know, with your anxiety disorder, you was able to still, you know, relax and be spontaneous and be like, let's go in here. That's like really amazing to me.
Did I feel relaxed? No.
But you pushed yourself.
But did I crave adventure? Yes.
Yeah.
And I think like the older you get, the more you'll look back on your time of life and think, did I make the most of that? And there's many respects I don't think I did, and I couldn't in some respects. But now I have options and agency and money and all those sorts of things. It's just like, well, I'm going to do those things, and it matters to me to try and bury those ghosts, silence those demons. So when I was in Tokyo, out and about, well, leading up to Tokyo, yes, there were periods of anxiety, thinking, what on earth are you doing? Where are you going? You don't know anyone, and you don't know the language, and this and that. But it's just like, you'll figure it out. You'll figure it out, and you'll assimilate, and you'll understand the culture, and you'll go with it. You'll watch what other people are doing. You make observations and that. And at times you'll get it wrong, at times you'll get it right. But at least you're out there. And when I was out there, man, I felt alive. Like, felt alive. Just seeing certain sights that I wanted to see, doing things that I wanted to do, navigating this it's an amazing city, is Tokyo. And then getting towards the end of the week and thinking, actually, I want to get out of Tokyo to go to another city. So I went to the south of Japan and went to Kyoto, and then saw a different side, a different rhythm of it. And like, I'm going on a train, and like, I don't really know where I'm going, but when I get there, I'll get on another train, and I took various community trains and connections, and then the system works very well. But it's like, as long as you're present and you're thinking about these things, and the chances are, from what you've said in terms of your anxiety and the worry, you'll almost be overthinking it. So it's not like you're wandering around with the head in the clouds. You wander around thinking, how do I make the most of this? So it's just taking the edge off that and going, you're the sort of person that plans, you're the sort of person that likes control, so use your skills. Those, whilst they may be worries at the same time, that means you'll have, like I'm an amazing traveller in that I think of everything like that you need, and I've got my bag packed well beforehand. I've got my tags sorted out, all my documentation. I know exactly what's in my case. I've got all my chargers and power banks. I know it. And something might say, well, that's a bit boring. Why don't you kind of like fly by your seat of your pants and just take a few clothes and that's it? And it's like, well, but now I'm going to need that stuff, and I'm not paying a fortune for it out there. And actually, I'd rather get myself sorted and set now and go, right, now I'm going out there and now I'm going to enjoy it. So when it comes to something like a DMU global trip last week in Copenhagen, because I'm such a confident traveller with myself, I'm like, all I've got to do is just add to my number.
Yeah.
But of course, when you add in other people, then it becomes a bit more of a challenge because you think about their needs. But again, I'm very rigorous, comprehensive, I'm very thorough in my nature. And those are the fruits of anxiety. This is the flip side. So if I didn't have this, would I be as competent an organizer and a leader in those sorts of areas? Would I have every box checked? Maybe, but I think maybe not. I would not be as strong as I am. So if I have to accept the bad stuff and the bad emotions that comes with this vulture on my shoulders that is always there, that has been there for 32 years, I'm going to use that vulture for some good. I'm going to use that to help me create outstanding experiences for other people. So all the different things like the coat check and all of that, I don't need to do, but I choose to put the extra effort in and go the extra mile, that extra 10, 20% in order to create truly outstanding experiences for people. So I'll be like, oh, a lot of care and attention has thought's been put into this. And I'll whisper quietly, thanks, anxiety. Because that helped me do that, because that notion of control and thoroughness and diligence and that, it's part of me. It's part of me of doing, it matters to me to do a good job. That's the superpower in it. At least that's how I see it.
I think it's nice that you call it a superpower, because I know obviously, like you said, not everyone likes that term, but it shows that it can be something that is manageable in a way. Like, you know, you're using it for God and you've turned it into something that can help you. And I think a lot of times when you think of mental health conditions, you just think of like people who can't get out of bed, people who can't do their day-to-day tasks, or just sort of, you know, people see it as a bad thing. So I think it's really nice to hear that, you know, you can reshape the narrative.
And for now, and you obviously mentioned people of various different abilities and situations and status in life. For some people, that's obviously going to be more of a challenge. But all I can talk about is how I am and how I see myself. And at times, it is all-consuming and it's horrible. And at other times, it gives me an edge. I suppose it only gives me an edge when I put myself in situations where I require it to give me an edge. And in a normal day-to-day, I just take it for granted that it's there. I'm just trying to manage it, rather than say, like last week, going on a global trip and then putting myself in a position where I go, right, anxiety, let's see what you've got. Let's see how you can help me. Maybe it makes me a slightly more difficult travel companion, because I'm always eyes are everywhere, and is everyone okay, and is everything going all right? Like, you know, there is that side to it, which is not very nice. But chances are, if there was something that was coming our way that was unpleasant, I've thought about it. I've got a plan and 2 contingencies to tackle it, so it'll be no problem, and I'll just deal with it. Interestingly, when we did the global trip a year and a half ago, I went to Dubai. The whole thing went to hell on day one. Like, there was so much stuff that went wrong. There was nothing to do with what DMU had done. It was the hostel chosen by the travel provider. There's a whole load of stuff. And in that moment, you thought, well, actually, my anxiety could just be like, it could have completely consumed me, because it was just the worst day I'd ever had in over a decade's worth of work. Just the worst day. But I remained surprisingly calm and dealt with it in a very adult and mature fashion. So it was almost like when it became too stressful, It's almost like, oh, well, I haven't got time for your anxiety. I've got work to do.
Yeah.
I just got to crack on and do this because there are people looking to me for leadership. There are people looking for me to resolve the situation. So I think when stresses have become too great, and I've had a few situations in life, I have actually, and I don't know how, and this is probably an action point for me to take away to reflect on, how did I manage, what was going on within me that I managed to shut that noise almost out completely and go, how do I focus on achieving my goal, whatever it is, like, you know, and yeah, there's been a few of those in life where it's almost been too stressful and suddenly the anxiety doesn't even really factor in it. It's just getting it done. It mattered too much in that moment in order to, you can't just call time and go, I can't do this, this is beyond my pay grade or my ability, I need help to do it. It's funny because sometimes my anxiety can peak in the most simpler of situations where the situation isn't that bad, nowhere near as bad as that, but yet in that moment and that, somehow managing to focus. Coming back from Copenhagen, one of the students just last week, a digital visa failed, and I said to my colleague, just take the rest of the students and get on the plane. Now I might not make it home, and then I've got this realisation of all my clothes are in my main case. I forgot to pack my spares on the way back. I always put spares on the way there, but forgot to put them in this rucksack here. And then I've got a computer and I've got some resources and my GoPro kit and no clothes at all. And the very distinct reality is I'm staying in Copenhagen tonight, at least until they can get me the flight out there with this student as the rest of my colleagues go home. And I was just like, I was anxious, but I was just like, I just got to focus on the task. And my colleague Dan said to me afterwards, when we finally made it onto the plane, and it was very stressful getting to the plane, he said, you handled that really, really well. I think at that point I was just exhausted. I was just like, just got to get home. Yeah. Just got to get home. Because
hearing all like your story and just sort of like your whole journey in little snippets, it's been like really amazing to see how much you've managed to notice yourself and your anxiety.
Trying to.
And I think you're doing really well.
Thank you.
But it's like that almost level of wanting to figure it out, that you can be the maturest person in the world, but if you don't want to figure out what's going on mentally, you're never going to figure it out, you know? Yeah,
the willingness to hold up a mirror to yourself, ask yourself the questions and that, because I don't know, it matters to me. Always encouraging students to develop self-awareness, so if I can't do that for me, then I'm a bit of a fraud. You know, like I think it's important that we get to understand ourselves a bit better, and anxiety is every bit as part of my identity as being as a family man, as being a mentor coach, working at DMU, and all the various other aspects of my life. So I have to give it a nod. I have to look at it and go, I recognise you, I see you. And in the same way, sometimes your job isn't great, or someone in your family's annoyed you, or whatever it might be. Sometimes my anxiety isn't great, or sometimes it helps me in that. So it's just, I guess, having a relationship with it.
Yeah, definitely.
And relationships are tricky, aren't they?
Very, very difficult. I think we've kind of talked about this, but you're someone, so when we first met, you actually came and did a lecture in my class.
MedSite, yeah, a couple of years back, 3 years back, yeah. Wow, yeah.
And it was with Biomed as well, so there was quite a lot of us there.
Yes.
So as someone with anxiety, how are you able to, you know, walk into a room and deliver a presentation? How are you able to do all of this? And how do you balance between having healthy levels of anxiety, letting it go too far in a way?
I love those environments. And they usually come after a period of quiet over the summer where you do mostly admin in preparation for the year. So it's evaluations of the past year, because my scheme year starts on the 1st of August and ends on the 31st of July. So a lot of stuff wrapping up the year before. A lot of stuff gearing up for the new year, which starts in September, October. So you go from quite a restful summer and an admin-based summer to then suddenly being thrust into front of a load of people. And the first lectures really are quite scary.
Yeah.
Like, especially the first one, because you go, can I remember my moves? Can I remember what I had to say? What points do I make? Do I remember how to do this? Because I've been out of step for a while. Like, if you don't practice it over the summer, you know, you can become a bit rusty. But then within a couple of gigs, like where different people ask me to speak on different courses and have those conversations and talking, then I'm back in my flow again. And I think for me, public speaking and talking in front of groups was always something I struggled with. Because I spoke too quick. That's the nervous energy in me. And then when you're under the spotlight and you've got so many people looking at you, then that only intensifies and speeds up even more. Well, I remember what I have to say. Am I boring them? Is my colourful choice of trainers questionable? Is is the presentation any good? Are they on their phones? Sometimes in education it feels like you're having to entertain people to keep them engaged, because it's very challenging to be engaging for a considerable amount of time at the front of an auditorium. But the truth of it is, it was a long time ago, and I really struggled with that, and I just made a conscious decision to go, that thing that scares most people, that thing that I suck at, I want to turn into my jam. I want that to be the thing that I'm known for. Certainly not perfect how I do it. I can do a talk and then sit down afterwards and quite quickly identify loads of areas for improvement. But the truth of it is, now I run towards those opportunities. I seek those opportunities out. It's rare that I'll turn something down, because one, I need to challenge myself, and that's important, and keep those skills sharp, because the job requires you to speak to large groups of people.
Yeah.
But another thing, I know this is a slightly different point of anxiety, but we've all got a voice, we've all got opinions, we've got insight, we've got inspiration to share with other people, we've got good stuff, we've all got good stuff inside us, whether we believe it or not. And that stuff deserves a microphone, that deserves a place at the front where those views can be shared responsibly, and the right messages, of course. But I believe in what I say, I believe in who I am and what I have to offer people, and I'm not going to stay quiet about that. Guaranteed, whether you see it going on or not, the nerves are still there and they're coursing through me. But again, like that volume control, I've just worked hard to try and turn the volume down on those things so they don't interfere with my presentation. And yes, I might slip my words, or I might go red cheeked, or I might forget what's on the next slide, or I might speed up or whatever. Not perfection. I've stopped chasing perfection now, because there's just no point. I did for a while, and you can't get there. You just can't. So I go, does my voice matter something? Have I got something of value to share with students? I absolutely do. So I'm going to seek out those environments, and I'm going to use it as practice to get good at those things. Create that reputation for myself that hopefully inspires other people to want to do the same and go toe to toe with whatever demon it is that they're struggling with.
I just think, overall though, we've talked many times briefly about your journey with anxiety through the years. I say through the years, I've only known you two.
It's been a few. It's been a while.
It has. So I think it's nice to actually hear your full journey, and it's really nice to see how you've been able to recognise your anxiety and then be like, okay, now what do I do? And it might have took you a while, but that's also okay. I think people always see the world as okay, here's a problem, what's the solution?
Yeah.
And I think people forget that life, as cringy as it sounds, is a journey, and it's okay, like you said, to make mistakes, or to burn out, and you're going to have those moments because you're human. Yeah,
for sure. There'll be some things I won't figure out about myself, and perhaps there's some stones that I really don't want to kick over and see what's underneath. Because if I was going to do that, I'd probably need some help with that, and try and figure out some of maybe the darker stuff or the more difficult stuff. So there are certain things I feel I've got the skills to try and figure out and to reflect on. Reflection is so important. And the rest, maybe I'll figure out and maybe I won't. But yeah, I'm kind of proud to talk about myself and my journey, because it is very much part of me. And this is important to keep having those conversations, because there are many people out there that are not having those conversations, and are not talking about these things, and it's a real shame, because some people, a man doesn't do this, and I'm really not sure what a guy is in this day and age and what does it represent. I just know that we're all human beings, and we should be sharing to one extent or another about what's going on with us, rather than feeling the isolation that I hear people talking about, the loneliness, or people not having the tools. And if we just had a conversation with a like-minded soul who themselves has probably navigated similar waters, we could pick up an astonishing amount about how to deal with their own stuff more effectively, and come to a happier conclusion about where we're at in life.
Yeah. And I think for many people, hearing someone who's gone through similar stuff, even if obviously no one's experiences are going to be the same, but just knowing that someone else is going through it can help so much.
You're laying down here as a culture of saying, let's just have some very open, honest conversations where we're learning from each other on the record in a way that might inspire the people who are listening to this to go, I can ask.
Yeah.
And it's okay, and there's no stigma about it, and particularly when you're referencing mental health month and a guy talking about what's affected him, I have no problem, because actually in some respects, as brutal as anxiety can be, it's a badge of honour.
Yeah.
It's a rite of passage. It's a tattoo on my arm. It's something that I've got that says, well, this is part of me. I'm not going to deny it. I'm not going to cherry pick the best of me and keep the rest of the stuff hidden away. Like, this is me. You either like me or you don't like me in that. But I'm not going out with a whimper.
Yeah. And I think that's really brave of you, because I think a lot of times people will just, like you said, they'll try and hide the bad. People don't like to talk about these things, but I like to set these up as well, and Rebloom is all about empowering people, being able to have these conversations with people who are at that stage, and empower you and be able for you to share your story. It's going to help so many people. Yeah,
I agree. The beauty about this medium is that there are people that are hearing voices, hearing our voices, and that can be quite a healthy contrast to some of the voices that appear in their head.
100%.
You can't, you aren't this, you're struggling with that, you're not good enough, why would people talk to you, why would people listen to you? So as much as those voices can feel very real inside people's heads, and that voices like this, what you're doing and what many of the people out there are likely doing to counteract that a wave of optimistic, proactive, caring help.
If you could leave the person listening now with one message that you want them to take away, what would it be?
I suppose there's something about understand what you're feeling. Like don't bury it, don't hide it away. If there's stuff that's going on within yourself and you don't have the tools to figure it out for yourself, then find a like-minded soul who's either been through it or is at the very least a listening ear in which to do that. And you'll hear a lot of guys say these things when it comes to mental illness. Find someone to talk to. Don't suffer by yourself. But I mean, it's a really obvious one, you know. And you might think, well, is there vulnerability in that? Yes. What if that person is not the right person to speak to? Well, there might not be, but just find someone, because my overwhelming experience of this world is it's got more good people than bad in, irrespective of whatever you see on the news, for sure. But overwhelmingly, there are good people who are trying to make their way in a way that's not intrusive to other people, and with good nature. Yeah. Seek them out. Find those people.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's a really good message. Thank you so much for your time today, Andy. It's been amazing to have you on, and I'm really grateful, and thank you for sharing stuff that you've not shared before with people in like a more public setting.
You're welcome.
So, yeah, thank you so much.
I'm really proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to Rebloom, where we turn women's health into clarity, confidence and compassion. If today's conversation sparked a question, or maybe a new perspective, then I'd love to hear from you. Remember, your health is worth understanding, and your voice is worth using. See you in the next episode.